Good morning, everybody. Lawrence Fleming here again. I picked a similar spot that I was at in a few videos ago. I like it over here because the birds are active. I can watch them come down and feed, and it makes a good place to get with God. All right, we're still going to continue to pick a little bit out of John as we go forward, but I'm going to jump around a little bit more. I think it's important we understand that the whole Bible has been written for us, and it's to our benefit to stay in it as much as possible. It's real simple. Satan cannot be near God, and God cannot be near anything that Satan is doing. Now, obviously, they talk in heaven because Satan's up there telling tattletales on us all the time. But God cannot be involved in Satan's actions. God cannot be around bad, and Satan doesn't want to be around good. So on earth, they can't have anything to do with each other. So if you're being tempted and tormented by Satan, then you've given him the avenue to come in. If you're filling your mind with the Word, Satan doesn't want to be there. So daily, and as often as you need to, you should be filling yourself with the Word. Memorize verses if it's possible. I have a hard time holding on to memorized verses. So the advantage for me is, and for what I'm doing with you, I don't have prepared sermons to preach or do anything like that. I can't remember that kind of stuff. Pretty much everything you see every morning is fresh. I sit down, I may read a little bit, but then I just start in because I can't keep this stuff in my head. God is giving me the information to give to you instantly on a daily basis, and I am grateful that I have that kind of a relationship with Him. Okay, and I'm going to start off in the book of Psalms with a quick verse here. I'm going to start off in Psalm 16, and I'm going to read a couple of verses. One of them here is verse 1. Preserve me, O God, for in you I put my trust. And that's what we've got to do, is we've got to make sure we put our trust in God through Jesus Christ. And we go down to verse 11. You will show me the path of life. In your presence is fullness of joy. At your right hand are pleasures forevermore. If you're not happy with your life, then you need to basically give up what you're holding on to and turn it all over to God. Everything. Your family, your work, everything, turn it over to Him. Don't walk away from it. Don't give it up. But give it up to God, and then He will give it back to you in a lot better shape than what you left it. You can have joy in your work. Many times we've seen where just at the time when Jesus was here, He didn't come down in a pristine world, a world that was right for Him and ready for Him. They didn't even want Him. The Romans were the sexually immoral group at the time. They had sex orgies all the time. These Roman baths, that's what they were about. So He didn't come back in a good time. He came back in to show the light to the bad time. And He was able to do His ministry, even though they wanted to kill Him, because He knew when and where to go and how to hide. He can do the same with us. And we're kind of in a Roman time now. The immorality that's going on is everywhere. We had a new movie released. Old man Disney is turning in his grave at the stuff that they're doing now. The new Buzz Lightyear movie. It didn't do well in the box offices because they came out and promoted something that was not acceptable to most people. Don't turn against people, turn against behavior, okay? So if you know somebody who's behaving sinfully, whatever it is, Don't turn against them, turn against the sin. Love the people, hate the sin. That's the only way you can deal with people. We've all got sin, it's just a different type. And if we're of the same type, then we understand. The bottom line is love the people, hate the sin. Okay, so that's in Isaiah. I want to look at, that was in Psalms. I want to turn to Isaiah. And we're going to start at the back, and then I'm going to work my way forward. Isaiah 40:31. But those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles, and they shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint. Very familiar verse. I'm looking at the sun reflecting behind me. That's a cool picture. See the rays coming down. I'm being introduced to the Word through the sun behind me. So if you're not feeling strong, wait on the Lord. This is a long verse, verse 40 is. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to not read the verse itself, but read the commentary. You can go read the verse because you've got your own Bible for that. For the weak, worried, and worn down, the opening words of Isaiah 40 ring out. Comfort, yes, comfort my people, says your God. That's verse 1. George Handel chose these words from Isaiah 41 as the opening words of his, I don't know how you say that, oratorial Messiah. So you've heard the singing of that. Handel drew heavily from the words of the Old Testament prophets as he wrote the words for Messiah, with the book of Isaiah being the most used. Isaiah wrote these prophetic words to the Jewish exiles who would live in Babylon in captivity about 150 years later. Chapters 40 and 45 contain prophecies to comfort them. Isaiah looked forward to the time when the captives would return home, and ultimately the second coming and the full salvation that Christ will bring to those who receive him. There are lots of times people are dealing with the world around them that is not pleasant. Since we're approaching and already in fact, some of those times, we need to find comfort in the Word. Christ will comfort us through his Comforter, the Holy Spirit, which we have dwelling within us. We have to make sure that we allow the Spirit to work. And then when it works, you're going to be joyous about the situation regardless of where you're at. If you're in a situation that you don't like, change it. Either change it to the way you like it by stopping things that are wrong or whatever is going on, or change yourself. Life is not supposed to be miserable, and there are many people out there, there are Christians who are miserable because they haven't figured it out. It's very simple. Wait upon the Lord, meaning ask God for help and then patiently wait. God never says, I'm not going to help you. He always says he's going to help us. And when we ask for something, if it's for our good, we're going to get it. I've asked for things and then years later realize I got what I asked for. God told me I wouldn't like it, and he was right. So sometimes what we ask for is not right, but God will still try to help us. So that way we can see, because we don't see from his point of view. If we could get this whole Bible crammed in our head, we might be able to see a little bit from his point of view, but it would still not come close to the full set of knowledge that he has. So trust him. Trust and obey. There's no other way. All right, I want to turn now to John for the final bit of reading here. This is Jesus talking, and he's with his disciples. And he says to them in John 14:25, that's where I'm going to start. These things I have spoken to you while being present with you. But the Helper, the Holy Spirit, whom the Father will send in my name, he will teach you all things and bring to your remembrance all things that I have said to you. Peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you. Not as the world gives do I give to you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. These should be familiar verses. And if they're not, make them familiar. You have heard me say, I am going away and coming back to you. If you love me, you would rejoice because I said, I am going to the Father, for my Father is greater than I. And I now have told you before it comes, that when it comes to pass, you may believe. I will no longer talk much with you, for the ruler of this world is coming, Satan. And he has nothing in me. Satan and God have nothing in common other than the fact that they're alive. Let's see. I had a message come up on my phone. You didn't hear it because it's silent. Nothing in this world is coming. He has nothing in me but that the world may know that I love the Father, and as the Father gave me commandments, so I do. Arise, let us go from here. And they're leaving their spot to continue on Jesus' ministry before he is taken away. We'll continue on with John later. Again, I say that's one of my favorite books because it talks about the deity of Christ. It talks about God. We know about man. What we don't know is about God. And Jesus says, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. I got a couple of squirrels on the tree next to me chasing each other. Okay. God's world is amazing. He didn't create it for trouble, for torment. He didn't create it for misery. He created it for joy. If you go all the way back to Genesis, when Adam and Eve realized that they had sinned, that they had eaten from the fruit, and it doesn't say an apple, it says from the fruit, they hid themselves. What did God do? He started looking for them, calling out to them. He didn't just sit back on his throne and wait for them to come to him or wherever he would sit. He went looking for them. The very first sinners of the world, he went looking for. He's going to come after us no matter where we go. And no matter how far we stray from him, all we have to do is turn around. And he's right there. Repent. So, these times are going to get worse. And if you look at the example of the 144,000, they're going to be preaching right in the midst of all the things that are going on. The bad things. The killing of the quarter of the earth, the killing of the third, that's almost a half of the world going to be dead. They're going to be alive doing their thing during that time. And God will receive them, and they will get special recognition when they get to heaven for what they've done. But they're going to be around the world preaching. There's one last attempt, and that's the angel of the gospel is going to come. But the 144,000, they're real people, just like you and me. Yeah, they're of the Jewish group because they're from the 12 tribes. But at that point in time, they've switched from the Gentile age that we're in now to the Jewish age when they're in the 70th week of Daniel. So it's towards the Jews. The original chosen people aren't accepting God either, which is sad. It's been sad all along. Every time they've rebelled and gotten exiled and brought back, you'd think they'd learn. But we are weak compared to God. All right. Continue in your studies. My videos hopefully will help you, but you've got to do more on your own as well. If you don't like to read a lot, like I don't like to read a lot, I watch videos. There's at least a half a dozen videos that I watch every day on YouTube. Good teachers, and I've told you who they are. John Samuel Barnett, if you can find him on YouTube, he is probably the best Bible teacher I've ever met. He's memorized so much of the Bible, but he teaches all the time. You want to get good at something? Teach it. Then you have to be good at it in order to do that. I like listening to Tom Hughes. He has a daily video that goes up where they talk about some of the news things that are going on from a biblical point of view. We've got the Watchman, Eric Steckelbeck. He gives us news about Israel and everything throughout the week. And I think they're going to open more up on the weekend. These are people that you can find on YouTube. And you may have your own. The thing about being a preacher or anybody that has anything to do with God is we all have personalities. And if you can get a match on the personalities and gain from listening to them, then that's fine. Make sure that they're teaching the truth. There are those out there, and I won't mention them. I don't want anybody going looking for them, that are teaching false doctrine. You don't want to hear them, because that can program your mind incorrectly, and you won't be able to accept some of the other things that are the truth. We're going to have a lot more false prophets out in these times where it's open, where they can say anything they want. We've got false churches now that are blatantly disobedient to God, and yet they exist and people go to them. Be careful. And there are those out there that they may go door to door. Don't try to converse with them unless you're prepared, because they are. For everything you have in the way of a rebuttal, they've got a verse for it. It's out of context most of the time. It doesn't matter what you say. They're going to have something for it. They're trying to win you over to their side, but they're wrong, and they don't know it, because it's a close approximation of Christianity, as the Antichrist will be a close approximation to Jesus. He's going to act and look like him initially. People are going to follow him initially for that reason. Be careful. Test everything against the Word, which is why you've got to know as much of this as you can. And if somebody says something that sounds biblical, oftentimes I talk and I quote all the time. But am I properly quoting? Look it up if you're not sure. There'll be key words in what I say that you can look up. I encourage you. And I'm human, I make mistakes. I have my senior moments and I do say things wrong occasionally. I get numbers wrong. I'm good with numbers normally, but I don't keep numbers in my head very well as far as, on this date something happened, or, I know the 144,000 and the two witnesses, because those are two numbers that are pretty easy to remember. But there's other places where I just have trouble with numbers. So if I get them wrong, I know I misquoted the number of Christians. It's just lots of people. That's all you need to know. Lots and lots. Just forgive me for that, and take what I'm saying. The meaning is not in the number; it's in the words that go with it. Hold on to God, because you're going to need to. I used to go to Disneyland, Disney World's in Florida, Disneyland's in LA. I used to go there as a kid. And I went back later on as I was older, because they do have rides good enough for young men. And they used to have a different ticketing system than they do now. There were lettered tickets, A through E or F or whatever it was. The roughest roller coasters, the hardest rides to go on, were the E-tickets. We're getting ready to get E-tickets. And I don't know where we're going to go. I don't know how far we're going to go into this. I know we're going to suffer right now because we're suffering inflation, finding things, high price of everything, and this is still not the full inflation yet. We're eventually going to be working a full day just to make enough food to eat. We're not there yet, thank God. But the world will be. And the Antichrist will step forward and say, I have a plan. Sign up and believe in me and I will help you. And a lot of the world will. But you can't. Those that don't get out of here on the first round are going to have to suffer to get out the second group. There will be many martyrs. And the 144,000 are winning souls. More people will be saved during the tribulation than ever before. But many of them will be martyred because that's going to be in the full reign of the Antichrist and his associates. You don't want to be part of that. There's peace for those that will be martyred. God will give them peace. But it's still not something you want to go through. If you think this is tough now, trying to get the word out, wait a little while longer. It's going to be really bad. All right, let me wrap it up here so I can keep this video small enough to upload. It took me 3 hours yesterday to upload today's video. That's what I'm having to deal with. That's all right. I go sit and read. I can read the Bible in a rocking chair up at the visitor center, and I do that, and that's a good way to pass the time. But I'm forced to sit there for 3 hours trying to upload a video. All right, until we meet in the clouds, love one another. God bless.